with Paul's laughing, he knows. You know, when there's alcohol involved, of course. So encourage you all to get around and meet each other, and I haven't had an opportunity to speak to you all this morning. But these breakfasts, normally what we do is we have our members present their businesses. They'll speak for 10 or 15 minutes. Not so much on their business, but more around topics of their industry and you know, potentially some tips for you know, whether it's in finance, whether it's in construction, home building. But when we're planning this event, we thought, how can we provide as much value to the members with one eye leading into 2026? And it's only around the corner, and it kind of sneaks up on us sometimes when you look at the calendar and you think, shit, we're only 4 weeks away from another year. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to introduce one of our businesses, which is Centurio Collective, which is a discipline and high performance coaching business. And I wanted to really just touch on a couple of points. This presentation normally go for 60 minutes, 90 minutes. I'm going to cram it in to try and get this done in 15, 20 minutes. But I do want to give you a lot of value, and to get the best out of it, I would ask for you guys to get involved. The more that you guys can get involved and participate, the more value our guests get out of it. So Centurio is as I said, it's a discipline and elite performance coaching business. I work with business owners and entrepreneurs from Australia, actually all over the world, athletes from all over the world, in creating discipline structures. And for me, 2026 is really about building momentum and understanding what that word momentum means. And really, without momentum, and a lot of you would probably feel this. You feel this in your businesses when things are rolling and momentum is starting to roll. Things start to work. You start to get deals. You start to close different clients, and then all of a sudden that momentum stops. That could be from a whole different range of reasons. But then obviously once the break stops, it's very hard to pick it up again. And a lot of people start to think too far in advance. You know, for me, momentum is about building small daily wins, small micro wins, which I'll talk about in a second, and really achieve something daily. Achieve a small goal daily that builds that momentum where you can continue on a daily trajectory into a week, into a month, into a year. So we'll touch on, as I said, a lot of these things we could easily speak for 30 minutes on, but I'm going to really concentrate on only a couple. Today we're going to talk about finding your why, which is a really powerful tool. It sounds a lot more complicated than it is. Mental fitness, I'm really passionate about. And then I'll touch on discipline, environment, design, wellness, and then putting all that together in a momentum formula. So I like this saying here, 2026 won't reward the most motivated, it will reward the most disciplined. Motivation fades, it's discipline is what keeps you going. You know, motivation is that spark, and it gets you going and it gets your ass off the couch, but that most likely fades very, very quickly. It's why a lot of New Year's resolutions don't last. 90% of them end by the end of January. Who's made resolutions at the beginning of Jan, and by the end of January they're out the window? Yeah, I've done it. And generally why that, I'll get into that a bit later. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm the founder of RXM Network, which is obviously Club 100. You guys are here a part of that today. We have Racing X, which is a media channel where we distribute racing content on behalf of international racing bodies, and Centurio Collective, as I've mentioned. So Centurio is really built off the back of my story, and 3 or 4 years ago, I was in a different business. I had an asset management company. We had a lot of racing assets under management in the vicinity of close to $20 million. On the back end of COVID, I got stung pretty hard, and within 2 or 3 months, it was game over. Lost a lot. Too highly geared, didn't have the foundations in place, had absolutely no discipline, and life got me. So I spent 12 months on the wilderness, more or less, feeling sorry for myself. turn to alcohol to try and make things better, and as we know, that certainly doesn't work. So I had to make a decision pretty quickly. I had a family, I had people that relied on me, so I had to make a decision pretty quickly. And part of that rebuild was really built off taking it day by day. And as I mentioned earlier, it's about building those small micro wins and stacking on top of each other and building momentum daily, as opposed to saying, oh, I need to get back to a $15 or $20 million net worth, whatever it might be. It's too far away. The mind can't comprehend that being so far away. You've got to create those really small micro wins daily to enable you to keep trying to achieve that goal on a very much of a micro level. When you strive too far ahead, you generally fail. To understand momentum, we've got to understand what stops it. So emotional decisions, I'm sure we all make emotional decisions, zero structure, burnout, and burnout becomes really a byproduct of discipline without vision. So when you really practice discipline, but you're not aligned to a vision in the future, it really just feels like punishment. So when you know you're working to something and you're really aligned to that, burnout doesn't happen because you know that each day you're working towards a goal that you're aligned with. No clear why, and we're going to get onto the why next. It's one of my favorite exercises to do with new clients. And weak daily habits. All right, so finding your why. This might sound easy, but I assure you it's very, very complicated to really dig deep within to understand your why and your purpose. 100% of people I work with know what they do. I'm sure 100% of people in the room here know what you do. But do you know why you do it? Deep down, do you know why you do what you do? It's the emotional driver behind everything that you do. This saying I love, people don't get inspired by what you do, they get inspired by why you do it. People don't get inspired by what you do, they get inspired by why you do it. The same can be said for if you're in a business. People don't get inspired, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Has anyone done an exercise like this before where you dig deep into your why? No. So these booklets I encourage you to take home because there is some areas there for you to make some notes, and we won't do it today. But I do want you to have a think about your why and the emotional driver, the belief system that you have, the belief in why you're doing what you're doing. The what you're doing is easy enough. I'm a real estate agent, I'm a security expert, whatever it might be. Everyone can understand and articulate what you do. It's not so much meaning around the money, why I do it. Well, I do it to I get paid, I've got to support a family. That's not your why. It's a deeper understanding. And what this process does, it basically reverses it. So most people go, this is what I do, this is how I do it, and this is why I do it. But what we do here, the program that I teach, we flip it around and we start from the inside out. So I always start with a why, and this aligns you with your higher purpose, aligns you with your goals. It makes that discipline feel a little bit easier when you're super aligned with your why and that outcome and your outcome and your vision in the future. So the how is the standards and boundaries that you set for yourself. The what, well, that's the easy part. It's what you actually do. So an example might be, I want to lead a life that I'm proud of. This is very high level, of course. I want to lead a life that I'm proud of. The how, I'll act with relentless discipline. And the result, I'll have a fit and healthy body. Right, so I knew you were coming, mate. I actually got an example pre-prepared for you in your business, right? So, security expert here. Right, an example of your why could be, I believe every family and business deserves to feel safe. Would you agree with that? Yeah. So if that was your core belief, and that's why you got up every morning, because you feel that every family and business deserves to feel safe, the byproduct of that will be the product that you sell at the end, right? So the how is, I'll communicate clearly, I'll over-deliver on service, and I'll make safety my highest standard. So now you're setting the boundaries for your standard. And the what, I design and maintain high quality security systems, right? If you started with the result, people are going to see, he's just trying to sell me something. He's just trying to sell me a security system. He doesn't truly believe that I deserve to feel safe and in control of my environment, whether that be commercial or whether that be a residential client. Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So if people can feel your purpose, they can feel that emotional driver when you engage with them, they're going to have a much different response to feeling you just showing up. And you just said to me before, actually, that others competitors come around and overcharge, overprice, and you actually said to me before, which is great, you feel bad when you go and see a client after they've been broken into. So you quoted, so he explained it to me like this. He's doing a lot of quoting for businesses, and they, for whatever reason, don't proceed immediately. They get broken into, they give them a call, right? So to have an emotional reaction to that and not go in and go, oh, you've broken into, I'm going to take advantage of them. I'm going to charge them double or charge them a rush fee or whatever it might be. It's flipping it around and saying, well, I believe you deserve to feel safe and in control of your environment. That's my purpose, that's my why, that's why I do what I do. Yeah. I will act with high communication, deliver at a high standard. I just so happen to provide CCTV and home security systems. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's flipping it around, because people buy why you do it, not what you do. So there is some space there. I encourage you to have a think about that. As I said, not today, because we'll rip through it, but over the weekend or whenever you get some time. The next point, for me, something I'm very, very passionate about, and especially after, as I mentioned earlier, my year in the wilderness, my mental health was challenged. I've prefer to look at it more as a mental fitness rather than mental health. Mental health to me is a state. I'm either good or I'm bad. And generally with health, you only go and get it checked when there's something wrong, right? It's not something you're proactively trying to delay, or you're trying to essentially get on top of something that is going to happen down the track. So mental fitness, as it implies, is similar to physical fitness. So you train your body, same way you should be training your mind, training your brain. Think of it the same way. If you're doing cardio for your body, you're going to get a certain response. You're doing cardio for your brain, which is challenging yourself daily. Instead of listening to music, listen to podcasts, listen to YouTube, listen to TED Talks, where you're constantly challenging your brain, constantly thinking, as opposed to just sort of in a vegetative state. Just you've got your music on. Music's fine, like when you're training and things, that's all good. But I encourage you to really start thinking about how you can continually evolve and continue to learn by pushing yourself further, by doing things that you wouldn't normally do. The other part is like nutrition. Nutrition for your body is obviously very important. What goes into your body determines your outcome of your physical health. Similar to what you're ingesting from a mental perspective, and that might be the content that you consume, it might be binge watching TV shows, whatever it might be. You've got to be really conscious of what's going into your brain, as much as you'd be conscious of what's going into your body in terms of food and beverage for that matter. Emotional discipline. This is something that everyone struggles with. This is probably one of the most common, is how you respond and how you react. Reacting starts wars, right? At the end of the day. How you respond in an emotionally disciplined way can affect business, it can affect your momentum, it can certainly derail your momentum. I'll give you an example. I was driving the other day to Pacific Fair with my daughter going shopping. I've got a Jeep, four-wheel drive Jeep. I've gone straight up the ramp. I've gone left. I've probably gone a little bit too fast. Gone left, bang, straight to the curb, scratched my rims. The old me would have gone off. Who the fuck put that curb there? Why would you make the corner so tight? That would have ruined my day. Probably wouldn't have got out of the car. Probably would have kept going, right? responding in a disciplined way, I let it sting initially. You got to feel the sting so you know what you're working with. And then I was able to quickly just park it. At the end of the day, I wasn't going to let it ruin the next hour running around Pacific Fair. I'll let Pacific Fair do that. But I was able to just really put it aside and go, look, at the end of the day, yep, I took it too fast. I probably should have slowed down. It's going to cost me $300 to fix. It's not the end of the world. I was able to park it and move on. Self-awareness, I've probably touched on this already, but being able to really understand what it is that derails you. What is your momentum breakers throughout the day, throughout the week, and then throughout the month? So I really like this term. It was popular, from my research, popular in the 70s. It had a little resurgence in the mid-2015, around 2015, but no one really talks about that mental fitness and working on it. And it's probably one of the main areas that when I work with clients, it's one of the most neglected areas. You know, a lot of you can see, physical health, I can see the result, but the mental side of things, it's very, very much neglected. And again, there's a little worksheet here just for you guys to complete in your own time. Discipline equals momentum. Well, for me, discipline is the absolute core root in building momentum. Without discipline, it's almost impossible to create effective momentum on a daily basis. How to build discipline? You've got to set your non-negotiables. These are, again, achievable non-negotiables, something that you can achieve daily, that you know you can achieve. You can stack those wins daily and not make them. You've got to have stretch goals, I understand that, but you want to be able to continue on a daily basis. Non-negotiables for me, going to the gym, got to make sure I do it on my workout schedule. I have a rest day, but I've got to make sure that if I'm going to get up this morning, I knew I had a bit less time to go, I still went. It's about setting those absolute non-negotiables with yourself. Helps you build trust with yourself. Every time you break it, you're just you're chipping away at that sort of personal trust with yourself. Installing micro wins, I've spoken about that. Self-negotiation, well, that's just talking to yourself and negotiating yourself. Oh, it'd be all right if I missed the gym this morning. It's only one day. What can it hurt? Right? I can tell you those one days they'll stack up. It'll be one day today, it'll be 2 days, something else will pop up tomorrow, and then all of a sudden you've been a week breaking trust with yourself. Tracking performance. Again, I was just speaking about this earlier. We track our businesses, cash flows, forecasts, all the fun stuff, but we don't really track our personal lives. You don't track whether that be through simple creating a diary entry for yourself each day, or for me, I use the Whoop Band. Enables me to track my physical things like recovery, sleep, things that are really important to me, and things that I actually didn't even know that you could track. But once you can start to add a metric behind certain things, you can understand yourself a little bit better, and you can see what actions that you create determine by the variance in your metrics simply through, it doesn't have to be a Whoop Band, but some type of wearable technology. Sleep's very important. For me, 6 months ago, I made a decision to stop drinking. You could really see the difference in sleep and the recovery around sleep. And I know after having, obviously you have 4 or 5 hours sleep versus 7 or 8 hours sleep, you definitely feel it the next day. But when you combine that with then maybe a couple of glasses of red before a couple of red wine before dinner, you can really notice that the Whoop Band, it knows once you've had a drink, your heart rate increases, and it's really something, a very, very powerful tool enabled to track your performance. All right, so we all know that you're a sum of your environment. You're the reflection of the people that you hang around. Again, something that's very, very important in building momentum. The environment essentially controls your momentum. The environment that you put yourself in, whether that's intentional or whether that be something where you through work or something you can't avoid. It's about how can you shape it that is going to enable you to achieve your goals or your vision, and whatever that might be in terms of building a daily momentum plan for yourself. Now, the physical's obvious, clear workspaces and, some time away from your phone when you can. For me, it's people. That's probably one of the biggest drivers, one of the biggest challenges I had was the people that I was hanging around, especially during my, through my year in the wilderness. I was hanging around with some people that weren't going in the direction that I knew that I needed to go. I had to make the really hard decision to cut them off. You've all got a mate that wants to corrupt you, that wants to, do the things all the fun stuff, but it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And very, very hard to cut people off, but sometimes you've got to put yourself first, and you've got to create the environment that's going to give you the best chance of success. All right, again, so sticking to your resolutions. We've all made them, and almost, I believe the figure's around 90%. By the end of January, they're all out the window. So some little hacks for your 2026 resolutions. Make them structural, not emotional. That might sound obvious, but what that means is replacing habits, don't remove them. So when we talk about replacing habits, we've all got habits, whether they're good, whether they're bad, right? Normally the bad habits are the ones that halt momentum, the ones that aren't underpinned by discipline. So one of the most effective ways of ensuring that you're able to stick to these resolutions or stick to your goals on resolutions is just obviously because we're heading into 2026, but really it's about aligning yourself with those goals, is replacing habits. So a habit might be getting home from work after one afternoon or every afternoon and having a couple of beers to wind down, right? That's a habit. Okay, might not be the end of the world, but it's still a habit that is not, in the true sense of the word, aligned with your vision and aligned with the goals that you might set for yourself, whether that be physical, whether that be mental, or whether that be nutritional for that matter. So replace a habit, a very simple replace of that habit. For instead of getting home and having a beer, I'll get home and I'll do a couple laps around the block. Or I might go to the gym and do something different from my morning workout. It's just about replacing that habit, replacing that act with another act that is going to be more in line with the vision that you've set for yourself and help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Again, I really focus on daily because you've got to take things one day at a time. And the longer, as I said, the longer you stretch things out, the harder it is to achieve them. The bigger the goal, we've all got those great, amazing goals and stretch targets, but you've got to chip away at them daily. You've got to break them down into those really small micro wins that you can stack daily. Again, might seem obvious, but wellness, training, all is fuel for building momentum. I've spoken about fitness, nutrition, and I've spoken about sleep. It might seem obvious, but it doesn't have to be war and peace. You don't have to all of a sudden become an Olympic weightlifter. It's just about moving. It's about being active and creating energy for yourself in a really positive way. You see, a lot of people go through their business careers, right, where they're under the pump for the main block of time. They get to the point where I can take my foot off the pedal, or I might have exited for a little bit of money. I've got a bit more time on my hand. Now I'll get healthy. Now I'll spend the time to do some weight training and get in the shape. But you've sort of missed that peak period of your life. It's if you can build some type of daily activity, some type of daily movement into your schedules. Doesn't have to be long, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Again, it aligns with that larger overall vision that you have for yourself. So to wrap it up, the 2026 momentum formula, start with your why. build and work on your mental fitness, install a really strict discipline system which is aligned to your vision and aligned to your why. The more you can keep coming back to the reason, which is your why. I start with a why with everyone that I work with. It's starting with their why. It's their anchor point. Design the environment and, of course, prioritize wellness. If you choose momentum daily, you'll get the results. If you look for something long-term, monthly, yearly, you'll most likely fail. So it's about the small daily wins, stacking them on top of each other and building through the day, through the week, through the month. And that, my friends, is a wrap. So I hope you got something out of it, and I would encourage you, as I say, to take the booklets home and have a read. It's something that's very passionate to me, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to share this now with other clients and from as I said, from sport to business. So I feel very honoured that you give me the time to speak to you this morning, and breakfast, I believe, is served or in the process of being served. So again, thank you guys, and
Thank you.